Who is Kilmar Abrego Garcia? How did he get to the United States? What has he been doing in the United States? What's the backstory? And how did he get involved with ICE to begin with? Let's dig in. The reason why Garcia had protection from being deported and sent back to El Salvador was because he would face persecution. It was dangerous for him to go back to El Salvador. And here's why. You have to understand his backstory, okay? He grew up in a family, mother, father, two sisters, an older brother. His father was a police officer. His father then joined his mother, Cecilia, who owned a papuses business where she sold papuses. Those are like the flat tortilla, they're pouches, and they have cheese and pork and beans in them. They're delicious. But they owned a successful business. So the whole family was involved in this business. And even as a young teen, 11 years old, Garcia worked. They all worked. Now, at the time, in El Salvador, they lived in San Salvador, which is the capital of El Salvador. There was a gang, and there still is a gang, called Barrio 18. Now, this gang, just like other gangs and even gangs in the United States, they extort money from businesses. They call it protection money or rent money, and they just extort money, and that's how they get money for themselves. So Barrio 18 was extorting money from the family business. And if the family didn't want to pay the money, meanwhile, these gangs, they'll charge whatever they feel like it, okay? And if they didn't want to pay the money, Barrio 18 threatened the family and said, Cesar, the oldest brother, because at the time Garcia was too young, Cesar will be joining our gang and until you pay. This is what they do. They force people to join their gangs so that they can work off what their families aren't paying. Of course, the family complied. They paid everything that Barrio 18 requested, and what they did is they ended up sending Cesar to the United States. So now here comes Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Now he's 12 years old, and they start threatening the family again and threatening him, and they threaten them and say, we're going to take him away from you if you don't pay us all the money that we want. So the family moved 10 minutes away. The gang still threatened them. They would find any way to intimidate families. They followed Garcia to school, followed him home. They do whatever they could. So no matter where this family moved, the gang would still try to extort money. They then threatened to grape, which we can't say that word, drop the G, and take the lives of Abrego Garcia's sisters, two sisters. Their threats didn't stop. So finally, the parents decided, you know what? We are not going to chance Kilmar being forced into this gang. So we're sending him to the United States to go live with his brother Cesar in Maryland. So in 2011, Garcia was sent to the United States to go live with his brother Cesar, and who, by the way, Cesar at that point was a U.S. citizen. And Garcia was 16, and he started to find work, and he worked in construction. In 2016, he met Jennifer Vasquez Sura, who's a U.S. citizen. They started dating. A couple of years later, in 2018, she found out she was pregnant. He moved in with her. So then in 2019, he went to a Home Depot to look for work in construction, as many people do. And there were also other individuals there as well. The police rolled up and asked him, are you a gang member? He said no. And they arrested him anyway. And the Justice Department, the U.S. Justice Department, has just released a lot of these documents. These weren't previously released. By the way, he had no criminal history at this time. I just told you his entire life story. So in these court records that the Justice Department just released, I'm going to read verbatim what it says to get through it a little quicker. So the police arrested him because they said he was wearing a Chicago Bulls hat and a hoodie with rolls of money covering the eyes, ears, and mouth of the presidents on the bill. The officers said such insignia indicating see no evil, hear no evil, and say no evil was indicative of the Hispanic gang culture. The officers said they consulted with a reliable, confidential source who advised that Abrego Garcia is the rank of Chiquillo with the moniker of Chelly in the gang. I probably did not pronounce that gang information correctly, but regardless. So he was handed over to immigration authorities because of what one person said. And I would love to personally know. By the way, this was all unfounded. There was no proof. I mean, you know, if anything, what the Trump administration should have done is provide him due process before he left. I would love to know when he had time to join this gang and be part of this gang. And I don't know. I mean, how you can go on wearing what somebody is wearing or what they look like and make these assumptions and destroy a human's life. And this is not just happening to individuals who are from other countries in our country. This is happening to U.S. citizens too. And now Trump wants to deport U.S. citizens over to El Salvador, to the terrorism confinement center. So I don't know. And that's the backstory on Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Now, the Trump administration has most recently today, April 16th, well, technically it's the 17th, the Trump administration has filed an appeal against federal judge Paula Zenith's court order to provide these daily updates because they say they're not going to be anymore. And with the El Salvadorian president saying in the Oval Office, calling Garcia a terrorist, and he's not going to release him. Talk about defamation. Like, this is unreal. Pam Bondi, J.D. Vance, Trump, El Salvadorian president, everybody that has spoken about this in the Trump administration have lied. They're lying. And it's so frustrating to watch somebody's life get destroyed and these kids having to grow up without their dad and this woman having to spend the rest of her life without her husband. But to me, it's heartbreaking. We have due process in this country. And if anything, they should have provided him the opportunity that he had a right to go to court and let them prove that he's part of this MS-13 gang. This is unbelievable. And you know what? It happens every day to U.S. citizens too. But this is wrong and it's only getting worse. And U.S. citizens, particularly those of you who commit crimes, should be afraid at this point. You'll be shipped over to El Salvador from what Trump's trying to do with the El Salvadorian president, right? Anyway, I'll keep you updated. Please like, follow, and share so that I can continue to provide you with content. And I really appreciate you being here.